Welcome to The Download. Today I'm joined by Gerry Sillars, Asia Pac head of a company called UpGuard. So Gerry, welcome to The Download.
Thank you, Ronnie. It's just a pleasure to be here.
Sure, we're going to have an entire Sean Connery session.
We could certainly try.
So Gerry's one of our favourite Scots in the IT channel. Some of you may have known him from his career history, but let's find out about what Gerry's doing today. So Gerry, tell me a little bit about UpGuard. Tell me a bit about the background of UpGuard, how it started.
UpGuard are an Australian-born organisation started by two guys who worked in the corporate IT area of the banking and finance industry, a guy called Mike Box and a guy called Alan Sharp-Paul. I've actually, interestingly, known Mike since 2002 when I arrived in Australia working for a company called Commvault, who you obviously know well. And Mike was the backup guy at Colonial First State, who are the wealth management arm of Commonwealth Bank. So Mike had a fairly meteoric rise in his career, certainly inside CBA. Within 2 years he was running all of the server environment, which was 60,000 servers, and had a couple of hundred people working for him. So Mike and I, personal history go back a fair way. When I arrived in Australia, CBA were one of 5 customers that Commvault had in region at that time. So Alan, on the other hand, comes from a development background. So Mike and Alan worked together in Colonial First State. In fact, the first meeting that they had, Alan being the dev guy, and as you know, dev guys always develop the best software on the planet. So Alan was the best software developer in the planet, had the best piece of software that he wanted to go and deploy in production in CBA. So went to Mike and said, I need 3 servers. And Mike said, get lost, I'm giving you nothing. What do you want it for? He said, well, I'm not telling you. So that was the start of ultimately what became UpGuard. Initially Script and then UpGuard. So Mike and Alan's careers progressed down through the years, and they latterly worked together at an organisation called Lloyds International, who again you probably know. So they built a bank from scratch in 9 months, and then did some consultancy after that, and realised and predominantly to financial institutions, so realised in every financial institution they were in that they had the same problems, and typically when something had gone wrong, they were called in to try and understand what had gone wrong in an organisation. So they'd sit in a room with 10 people, 10 consultants, 10 IT staff and say, what went wrong? And they would get 20 different answers. So they thought that they could go and write a piece of software that would help go and address that challenge. So end of 2012, they gave up their jobs, started coding full-time.
The infrastructure guy started coding too?
An infrastructure guy's a fairly smart guy. Yeah, he plays guitar, speaks German, did a law degree in his part-time, and yeah, he's just a...
So hence the logo.
Hence the logo,
the Guitar Pick
indeed.
Logo.
Yes, the Guitar Pick logo. So we work in an organisation where everyone has a musical talent. Mine's playing the spoons. So everyone can play an instrument. I get to play 2.
Well, we heard you before trying to sing, but that didn't work.
Well, yeah.
Not so bad.
I can do a bit of that. So anyway, getting back to my story.
Yeah, of course.
If I can, if that's okay.
Of course.
So they were out at ATP, the Innovation Centre out in Redfern for several months, and as I said, started writing some code, got a small piece of investment through the StartMate organisation, which is an Australian based organisation that invests in tech startups. And I think one of the nicest stories from my perspective, just on I think that helps understand the attitude of these guys. They got through some old contacts an opportunity at an organisation called Amadeus. So Amadeus, if you've ever travelled in Europe, you'll have touched some piece of Amadeus technology. They typically do ticketing systems and booking systems for all the airlines in Europe. Had an opportunity. They got a phone call saying there's 5 people in the business at this time. They had about $100,000 of investment in the bank, or $100,000 in the bank at that point in time. Got a call saying we want to do what we call a proof of value, so which is I guess a better description of what people would traditionally have called POCs, or proof of concepts. So our goal is to go and demonstrate the value in the technology and that the customer understands that.
The concept is proven, right?
Absolutely. So got a phone call on the Thursday from some guy in Munich who was going to work with them on the POV and said, yeah, we are very much looking forward to seeing you next week for the POV. And they went, shit, they actually expect us to be in Munich. So made a decision there and then that they would take all 5 of the staff, jump on a plane, and go to Munich to do this POV. So basically, the decision was we're going to burn half the cash that we've got in the bank to go and roll the dice
win this deal.
and win this deal. So they arrived in Munich on the Sunday, sat and coded because they hadn't finished coding what they needed to code for the customer. And the upshot of that was they ended up getting a deal for $1.4 million, which really set the organisation off and running. Round about that time, some of the early investors in the business, and we've got a who's who of investors in the business, but certainly the early investors in the business, a guy called Scott Perry, who had built and created a number of large US-based IT organisations, had said, guys, look, if you're serious about this, you're going to have to go to the Valley and try and raise some dough. So jumped on a plane, did that, went up and down the 101. So we get joint co-founders and co-CEOs. So Mike and Alan, and I'd say, if you go and look at the 2 individuals and 2 characters, Mike's the kind of out there comedian visionary, and Alan's a straight guy. Alan decided halfway through this trip that his pitching and presentation skills weren't up to scratch, and figured that the reason that they were getting no's at every door that they knocked on was because Alan couldn't pitch. So Alan went and did a 2-day course in a comedy club and did some stand-up to get over his ability, or get over his inability to go and pitch. Next call they went and they got some funding. So up sticks and moved to the US. And literally locked themselves in a room, so 5 going to about 10 people for the best part of 2 years.
So I might just stop you there, right? Because there's a really interesting side story about, because he wouldn't be the only person who struggles to present, or
Absolutely.
who struggles to pitch.
Yeah, sure.
And so, his angle to that was throw himself right in the deep end, go and learn how to do stand-up comedy, and put himself in front of a group of people, try to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they laughed, Ronnie, but at least they tried.
From that, it changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Totally changed his ability to pitch.
Absolutely.
It's a really interesting concept.
And very humorous guy, very dry sense of humour, and very, very competent on his feet nowadays. He's a great guy. So, going the organisation through to probably early 2015, hadn't really tried to go and sell any product. I started recruiting. First sales guy that recruited someone we actually just moved to Sydney to help us grow our business here. Joined the business mid-2015. By the end of 2015, they decided that we were going to invest in a sales organisation. So did that in the US through 2016. With some notable success. Won a number of flagship accounts in the US, accounts like NASA, accounts like Intercontinental Exchange, who own 7 exchanges worldwide, the New York Stock Exchange being the largest of those. We've just done a case study with ServiceNow on ICE, which is Intercontinental Exchange, not to be confused with any other type of ICE. And Home Depot and a number of others. So it had always been the organisation's intention to make the first international investment back in Australia. So, as I said, Australian-born organisation, very passionate about going and building a business in Australia. So I joined the organisation at the start of this year. I got a phone call from Mike in August of last year. We'd just done a B series of funding. We raised another $17 million. And Mike said, Gerry, we want to do Australia. Let's get going. And I said, that's awesome, no problem. Although I'm in Singapore, so if we can do it to Singapore, that's great. And I can start at the beginning of the year. So you're
now running, you've started in earnest in Australia.
Yep.
And we'll talk about our relationship in a moment.
Yep.
And you're also building the business in the Asia Pac region.
I am.
And what's happening in the UK?
And I'm doing that as well.
You're doing that too?
Yeah. So.
Okay, so the business is really now truly going global.
Absolutely, yeah. So
you're Series B funding?
Series B funding.
And who are some of the investors that you've gotten?
Yeah, good point. I meant to mention that earlier on. So we have a number of institutional investors in the US. Valar Ventures, you may be aware of, August Capital, who were the first investors in Splunk, Pelion out of Utah. But we also have a couple of notable Australian investors. So Insurance Australia Group Ventures invested in the business, specifically because they see a challenge in the cyber insurance marketplace, or they see an opportunity in the cyber insurance marketplace.
That's probably a good segue, right? So why don't we segue at that point into what are the problems that UpGuard solves? Like if I said to you, Gerry, tell me the top 3 or 4 problems that UpGuard solves for organisations, and then we can tie that into how does that fit with cyber insurance?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to, we pitch ourselves today, or we present ourselves today as the world's first cyber resilience platform. And the first question we typically get is, what does that mean? Although cyber resilience is a terminology that is starting to be more widely used in around the IT industry. We've been talking about cybersecurity for a long time now. Lots of people have made a lot of money out of talking about cybersecurity. There are a plethora of organisations who have built security software products to go and try and address security issues. Most of them focused on the perimeter. So our view is that it's okay, and clearly you need to go and understand how to protect a perimeter. So outside the walls, outside the firewalls of an organisation, but. The biggest challenge and issue that we saw and see in the marketplace, first and foremost, is visibility in an environment. People just do not know what they have. It's impossible to understand the risk you have in an environment, and therefore absolutely impossible to be resilient if you do not first fundamentally understand what you have in your environment. So
when you say what you have, things like to what extent can you guys discover what people have?
So servers, desktops, so from mainframe down, from mainframe right down to IoT devices, so anything with an IP address, applications, operating systems, and we can tell what's changed on an ongoing basis.
So you can first discover,
we can
understand
first discover
what everything is that's out there.
Absolutely.
That's got an IP address.
So the three areas, if you like, that we go and tackle are discovery, control, and predict. So the discovery is first and foremost going and understanding exactly what I've got. So how many servers I've got, how many desktops have I got, how many what operating systems I've got, what packages have I got installed on each device, what packets have I got installed, where I'm at from a patch level, etc., etc., etc. So
right now, just because it's timely when we're talking, we just had the WannaCry virus come through.
Yep.
So if UpGuard was in situ at the time, an organisation would have been able to rapidly work out which devices out there are at what patch levels today, so they could do targeted patching, identify if there was an XP device out there that you couldn't put a patch on until Microsoft happened to release one, but you could do that with the discovery capability. So it goes right down to operating systems, patch revisions, etc.
Absolutely. I had one of my guys at a customer in Singapore the day that the WannaCry hit, and was sitting with a head of IT, and he said, I've just had a phone call from the CEO saying, where are we hit? And he said, can you tell him? He said, yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly what has been installed where, and give you a view on, in terms of priorities, in terms of mission critical apps, etc., which systems do you need to go and patch immediately?
That's brilliant.
Was also at a customer in Australia yesterday, and it's taken them it will take them 9 weeks to go and properly patch pretty much every system that they've got. But the biggest challenge was understanding, to your point again, understanding where have we been hit and where are we susceptible. So
even though you might call it discovery, it's also that analysis that allows you to be targeted and do triage in scenarios.
Sure, and that really moves us, and that's a decent segue into what we call control. So it's fine going and discovering assets, but discovering assets without putting some control around what you have is it's not meaningless, because clearly you're never going to affect that resilience, so you're never going to achieve the outcome of resilience if you don't understand what you've got. But a big part of resilience then is putting control in your environment. So having a benchmark, what does a gold standard look like across my Windows servers, across my Linux boxes, across my Oracle databases, etc., and then constantly monitoring change. So becoming compliant effectively with the rules that the organisation define that they should have internally. Now that could be some benchmarks from CIS benchmarks, or NIST benchmarks, or PCI DSS benchmarks for people who are taking credit card payments, or it could just be, this is my gold standard for, and I need to understand anytime anything deviates from that, and or I need to understand if I have a vulnerability that, again, like WannaCry, like MongoDB, like whatever. So I need an ability to go and say, I've got a challenge, I've got an issue, and have it flagged, so the IT organisation can then go and take a corrective action. Now, we don't take corrective actions, but we go and flag the requirement for corrective action, and then we go and pass off to another product. So So that may be, in the ITSM type world, that could be to an organisation like ServiceNow or Jira or Sharewell. Through the DevOps environment, that could be to an automation tool. So that could be to Puppet, to Chef, to Docker, to Ansible, to Salt, etc., etc., etc. So, and we'll do an auto reconciliation at the back end. So we've gone from a bad state to a good state. So we've gone check. So really, what we're trying to do there, I came up with this terminology. And what we're trying to do, we're noise cancelling headphones for IT. We're trying to take we're trying to take out all the day-to-day hubbub out of an environment and just get to the root cause, to your point of it earlier on, and really manage where are my risks right now and how do I go and control those. So
let me just sort of take that and summarise it for a second, just to make sure that everybody that's listening here has a good understanding of it. So you're able to take
or indeed that they understand,
or maybe that even I understand.
Yes.
So you can identify a gold configuration state. You can then monitor what's happening in a platform against that goal configuration state, and then feed other systems information to say, hey, heads up, this is now no longer what it was there.
Yep.
How does that work when you're doing change controls? How do you integrate change control into that process?
Sure. Again, with products, typically with products like Sharewell and products like ServiceNow, they are the workflow systems that are now typically controlling change and release management. So we are, again, an integral part of that because we're giving them detail on where changes need to be made. So go and hand off to inside an ITSM tool into the change component of that workflow and say, so take it from change through all the authorizations. So again, we're not handling the output to potentially 10 different responsible people in an IT organisation to check a box to say, yeah, I'm good with that, I'm good with that, I'm good with that, to go through that release process. But we hand off to change, to release, and then we track that through the life cycle of that actually happening. So we hand off in a manner that those products understand a requirement. We check in effectively into that change management process, if you like. And then track it through its life cycle. So when it's back, again, we go from a bad state to a good state. Yeah, it's been done. That's been action. We can also provide reporting on, we're still waiting. So 24 hours, that still hasn't been action. 40 hours, that still hasn't been action. So we can report on anything that we touch in an environment or we hand off.
Okay, that's cool. So that's now we've done that part.
Control.
Let's go to control.
So that is control.
Sorry.
So predict. So we can go back to control if you want.
No, we've done control.
Okay, I should blend it. So the predict piece is where we, and I think one of the first things we talked about when we initially talked about UpGuard was our C-star rating, so our cybersecurity threat assessment rating, which is an aggregated, easy for me to say.
Struggle with that word?
Aggregated score of an organisation's cyber posture, if you like, and we go and build that cyber posture rating or C-star rating from.
So what does C-star stand for?
Cybersecurity Threat Assessment Rating. Okay. So that's an aggregated score of external and internal assets that an organisation has and their level of compliance. We also take some reputational data as well, so we hook into organisations like Glassdoor because, again, to understand risk in an organisation, and certainly, operational IT risk in an organisation, there are some other aspects like reputational risk. If your CEO has a bad reputation, or if people in your organisation don't enjoy being in the organisation, then that could have a detrimental effect.
Greater chance they're going to potentially do something untoward.
It could create a chance that someone's going to do something malicious in an organisation. So taking that control piece from an internal perspective, we give a rating against how well are you actually doing from a compliance perspective. So.
And that's a score out of 980?
950. So yeah, 0 to 950, 0 being bad, 950 being off the charts good, or as good as you can get. We also go and assess the external assets, so the external facing assets of an organisation. So the web servers, etc., and how susceptible or not they are to potential threat. So again, relatively simple stuff. Best practice around how well do I go and lock down my external assets, and we're also working towards going and building out that capability to go and add greater detail from a third-party vendor risk assessment rating perspective. So, how susceptible are you as an organisation if you're doing business with, if you get MongoDB in your environment? How susceptible are you? If you're an IBM customer and you've got OSs that are going to go into life in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And certainly that component of it, giving predictability around where your potential challenge is going to be at some point in the future.
And predictability is one of those things in IT that everyone wants, right? Tell me about a problem before I'm going to have the problem.
Absolutely.
So I can fix it before it's a problem.
Absolutely. And again, that going back into that control piece and going and flagging challenges that you've got in an organisation, and the ability to go and say that someone has gone and opened a port, an unauthorised opening of a port, and they've opened that port for 30 minutes and then the port's been closed again. So the ability to go and track that, who did it, when did they do it, and have an audit trail, again, certainly helps organisations. Any regulated body, any publicly traded organisation, helps them from a compliance perspective through the audit piece. So
that's interesting, right? One of the things I guess you guys could do as well is keep DR and production in sync with one another. Because that's always the problem, right? Like if you look at particularly in large organisations where you've got dev, test, production, DR,
sure. So
how do you make sure they're all the same?
Sure, absolutely, and it's a fundamental to what we do. So from dev through test through from dev through test through production and through DR, so that whole life cycle, ensuring that that's in sync. We're working with a very large global bank right now. And we've discussed this before, but this organisation have something like 200,000 servers under management. They have 780, I think that's right, 780 DR instances on a weekly basis.
Wow.
Some of those planned, some of those unplanned, and they fail 60% of the time, so 60% of the time because of misconfiguration, because through time the production environment has changed so significantly to the DR environment. That's a stable environment, no one's touched that DR environment. They try and do a failover and it doesn't work. So certainly the ability to go and huge benefit through the whole the DevOps piece, so going and understanding that what I've got in development is indeed, to your point, is the same version and version that as we go through the test piece, through the production environment, and very, very importantly through that DR environment, because a lot of people tend to forget that DR is something that's maybe never going to happen, but it's never going to work if you don't.
It doesn't work when you need it most.
Exactly. Yeah.
So very, very broad set of products and set of I guess use cases that you solve for. Possibly, I think one of the most interesting things for me when we started talking about our relationship and the Insentra relationship with UpGuard and what we're doing together with you, one of the things that I found most interesting is that it's actually, you don't have to buy modules to do all of this.
Sure.
It's, you buy a license and you can now do all of these things that you've just been talking to us about for the past sort of 15 minutes.
Yep.
One license, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your go-to-market model, what's been the go-to-market model? What's the plan for what you're doing in the market?
Sure. When I joined the organisation, we had a 100% direct model in North America. I said, no way, that's not going to happen in the international marketplaces. We've now flipped that in the US as well, so we're now 100% indirect.
It's 100% channel-based?
100% channel-based globally now.
So that makes a great connection for us, right? Because that's,
of course,
that's the same as us.
Absolutely. So with a two-tier distribution model, so we have in every country that we operate in today, we have a distributor, and we'll then have resellers working effectively underneath that distributor. And in every market that we are, certainly every new market we're going into, I'm trying to find an Insentra type organisation, because I have a belief, obviously I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe this is going to become a very large organisation. The opportunity is there, the timing's right. I think the people that run this organisation are the right people to go and grow a large organisation. But we can't do that without a channel. But the nature of what we do, and certainly the nature of what we do as you go and grow a channel partners today, and possibly have never had an ability to go and properly invest technically in vendors. So you wouldn't be in business if that was the case. So my firm belief is that our channel partners, increasingly our channel partners, as they over the last 5 to 10 years have had more downward pressure on margins, downward pressure on them understand how they remain relevant to the enterprise that they do business with because of the advent of cloud and Amazon and Azure and Google, etc. They are looking for solutions they can go and take to the customer to go and expand their share of wallet, but they don't necessarily have the manpower to go and invest in the technical skills. So it was imperative to me that we found an organisation like Insentra that had that depth of technical skill that can go and support our channel, that can go and support us to go and grow our revenue and our business, but are entirely complementary to our channel as well.
Right. So I guess then what I'm hearing is you've got an entire channel-based go-to-market strategy that, like a vendor would normally invest in their own pre-sales and their own delivery resources and support network. That's what you're leveraging Insentra to do on behalf of UpGuard, and we can do that non-competitively because we don't transact the product. We leave that with the partners to do, help the partners to skill up, and if the partners want to go do it themselves moving on, then they can.
Absolutely.
And there'll be partners who do want to invest, to your
Absolutely.
point, and there'll be a lot of partners who can see a way to solve problems for their clients, particularly people who are delivering managed services and who could put this into their managed services and make them more resilient. Then they could choose to leverage services from you, which ultimately would be us. That's kind of what the strategy is going to be?
100%.
Right, that's great. And are you planning on building a big channel? Are you planning on building, targeted channel of certain partners? What's the thought process
So
there?
the thought process in going and building a channel right now is limited distribution, if I can call it that. So we don't want to have every channel partner in every geo that we're doing business in falling over each other and competing with each other in the account sets that we're in. We want to go and work with partners who want to be committed to us, certainly from a sales and marketing perspective. But we as an organisation today don't have the bandwidth to go and handle hundreds of partners. Distributors don't necessarily have the bandwidth to go and handle hundreds of partners. We want what we do is enterprise. So by default, it's fundamentally what we do from a technology perspective is relatively simple. But what we're the issues that we're addressing for organisations are very complex. They're issues that they all have. So we're looking for limited numbers of partners in each of our geographies, trying to align those partners with verticals and key verticals that we're working in. And those key verticals today for us are the FSI marketplace, massive issue. Really any publicly listed organisation, large-scale retailers who've got issues around PCI DSS, and increasingly government. And certainly from an Australian perspective, there's a big push, as there are in most governments around the globe today, on the whole cyber area. It's becoming a massive challenge when nation states are using technology against each other.
Absolutely. Well, Gerry, that's great. Look, thank you very much for spending some time with us today on the download. Is there anything else that you think that you'd like to share with the audience that you haven't potentially shared yet?
I should have worn my kilt and I could have shared that with you, Ronnie, but
so long as you would have shared what was above the kilt and not below the kilt, I think our audience would have been happy.
That's one of the problems, Ronnie, My kilt's either too short or,
Gerry, thank you very much.
Thank
it's
you,
been
Ronnie.
wonderful having you with us. And, we're very excited about the relationship we have with UpGuard. I think it's a fantastic technology platform. As you can hear from Gerry, there's a lot of different things that you can do with UpGuard. It plugs a lot of the gaps and a lot of the issues that, historically when I was on the client side, they were problems that I had. And, now that's 20 years later, we're finding an organisation that can actually get across all of those problems and help to resolve them. So encourage everyone to have a look at the UpGuard technology suite. Gerry's a great guy. I've known him for many, many years, and I'm sure he's going to be as successful building the UpGuard channel as what he was for the Commvault channel when he was working with Commvault. So we're very excited about the relationship. Have a great day, everyone.
And we just can't hide it.
So can you guys pose for a nice shot without a broom and everything in it? Okay.
Wing it. I haven't planned a thing.
I know. I was like, you guys don't need questions because you know what you're doing.
No, I'll just wing it with him. That's cool.
We can make it if we try, just the two of us, you and I. I hear the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. I hear the echoes in my mind when I think of you sometime.
There's lots of echo in that mind, right? There's plenty of space in there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
All right.
Instant show. when Parkinson's got Sean Connery and Lulu. Have I told you this story? You remember Lulu?
No, who was Lulu?
So she was a 1960s Scottish. Anyway, so Sean Connery's from Edinburgh, and Lulu's from Glasgow.
Right.
So, Lulu's been in the green room. She's been on the gin and tonics before. So anyway, they've done an interview with Lulu first. So Sean comes on, and Parky's saying, "So Sean, you're 72 years old. You're still, which is 14 years ago. You're still just been voted the sexiest man on the planet." He says, "Why is that?" He says, "Well, it's fairly obvious, Michael." He says, "I may be 72 years old." He says, "But I have the libido of a 19-year-old." And he's going, "Oh wow, is that?" He says, "I can go all night, no problem at all." And Lulu's sitting going, "Oh my God." Anyway, they're back in the green room afterwards, and Lulu's going, Sean, see that about you being able to go all night? Is that true?" And he says, "Of course, my dear." She's like, "I've got a wee apartment round the corner. Do you fancy?" Anyway, "Yeah, it'd be my pleasure." So round so round they go. They have sex. Lulu's going, "My God, Sean, that was brilliant. That was pure dead brilliant, by the way. See all that stuff he said about, you can go all night." He said, "Yeah, of course, but you've got to remember, my dear," he says, "I'm 72 years old." He says, "If you take your left hand and cut I'll try and be as clean as I can here, and cut my testicles, and you take your right hand and hold my penis," he says, "in 1 hour, I'll have a nap." He says, "In 1 hour, I'll be ready to go again." So, sure enough, 1 hour later, they go again. She's going, "My God, that was better than the first time, Sean." Says, "Same thing again, cupping and holding, and you'll be ready to go now." And he says, "Well, no, my dear, I'm 72 years old." So he says, "In 2, if you repeat the exercise in 2, I'll have a nap for 2 hours and I'll be ready to go again." So anyway, this goes all night. So Lily's having a smoke, knackered in the morning. She goes, "Sean, that was brilliant. That's the best night I've ever had in my life." She said, "See all that cutting your testicles and holding your penis, does that really work?" He says, No, of course not, my dear." He says, "But the last time I slept with a girl from Glasgow, she stole my fucking wallet."
So that will go on the end of the video, yeah?
If he's happy with it.
I'm happy with it.